Prepare yourself for a sprawling discussion on just about anything, where critical thinking meets pop culture in a collision of mind-bending proportions. Please secure all neurons and prepare for full frontal cortex. It's time for Incoherent Ramblings. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Incoherent Rambling.
Damn, I have ear damage now.
That's for getting me with the little whispering thing last time. Whisper demons. So, no, I'm going to be strong. So, we are here with episode 023, which is going to be on nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology.
I'm your host, Joey Schammel. We also have
Paul Hottinger.
Cale Anderson.
Daryl George.
And today's episode is brought to you by Springer from the 40th anniversary of Transformers, the Generations line.
Wait, what anniversary?
40th?
Did I say 40th?
that's
I meant 30th. Sorry.
Wait, even what? 30?
It's 30.
Yeah, 30.
Oh, for the original Transformers.
Yeah.
It was like
1984 to
84.
2014. It's still a year, but you know, they let them out early. So, Springer, triple changer from Transformer the movie. Hey, Springer, how's it going? I'll transform into a helicopter, and I'll transform into a black man. That's for some other. Damn it, you're gonna have to edit that. Damn it. Okay, wait, and we're back. Okay, so that's Springer, and I also transformed.
Wait. Why does that have to be edited?
Oh, it doesn't need to? Okay, I don't know.
I don't know. You just said black man. You didn't say it in a
Because
derogatory
I
way.
was doing a voice. And it's fine. I don't care.
I don't know.
I wasn't being mean. I was
Probably
just...
just going to be fine.
Okay, so...
It's not like you went...
Well, it was almost
Don't-
better than
don't-
old
don't.
trapper, like old trapper man.
He's not
you
singing
know?
Jimmy
Okay,
Crack.
we're going to have to edit you guys, so let's just stop saying it. All right, so...
Brer Rabbit.
Remember, if you want to contact us, you can always contact us... Brer Rabbit. At...
Rubber baby.
Dude, they made a ride out of it.
Yeah. Show at IamRambling.com or put our name in front and you can get a hold
they
of us
don't
individually.
publish Song of the South anymore, do they?
No, they do not.
No.
No.
There's been a push for it. They'll never do that. But if you go to the Cal Poly Library, we have a bootleg copy in our collection.
That's pretty awesome.
Why did Uncle Remus?
Because he was a pedophile.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, so let's have a little.
Now who's the
Hey, you know what,
racist?
guys? I think it's time for the pre-ramble.
All right.
Pre-ramble. We really got to come up with some sort of.
We're working on it.
We need to coordinate a little more.
Yeah.
All right, this
We need
week's
to make
pre-ramble.
the pre-ramble stump.
Yeah.
This week's pre-ramble, because we had no plan for it, is just going to be about. What's going on in my life right now? I'm about to have a kid, and my wife just went into preterm labor, and she was about to give labor at 30 weeks, and they stopped it. Technology's amazing. What do you guys think about that?
It
they
sounds
employ-
like mercury to me.
Did they employ
Magnesium.
Okay, they did not.
They did not.
Okay,
that would
your
be
wife
bad.
with mercury.
That
Okay,
would not.
give me
be
my
good.
wife mercury to stop the contractions. Would stop the contractions and my wife. So they gave her magnesium sulfate, which stopped the contractions.
Kelly, you're not wrong. You're just not right.
That's not right.
God.
So yeah, she is. I've taken a little break from the hospital, but basically we are living. We are living in the Pasadena Huntington Memorial Hospital until the baby's born, which hopefully will be in longer than 2 weeks, but we'll see. So my wife is not allowed to get out of bed because if she does, the baby could fall out, basically. Not fall out, but she could go into labor.
See, she started having to stay in bed to make the baby. Now she has to stay in bed to have the baby.
Except the irony is we did IVF, so we didn't make the baby
Well, that's
in
right.
bed.
That's
You don't,
right.
you
Yeah.
don't
We
know
made
the,
it.
Ooh, sorry.
You don't know the gender
Wasted
yet, but it
practice.
might be Fallout Boy or Fallout Girl.
So I'm taking a little break from that. If I sound a bit off today, it's because I haven't got much sleep in the last few days. So, but
What's
I'm.
your excuse the rest of the time?
Oh, you bastard! Here we go again.
Oh,
I have no excuse. Okay, so maybe I'll be better today. Woo! So that was the pre-ramble.
By the way, today's the 3rd of July today. So we're going to have,
Oh, that's right.
Independence Day tomorrow.
So now we're telling them how late we are
Yeah, now
publishing
we're
stuff.
dating ourselves again. Nice job, Gerald.
Yeah.
All our listeners, all of them are going to know how behind we are.
All right,
30th
but
of August 4th.
I have to say it now. We'll link to photos and video of some fireworks.
No, yes, that will be happening because Daryl will be.
Yeah, but
Speaking
it won't
of
happen
bedroom.
now. It'll happen way in the future.
Right. It'll happen.
Yeah.
Just like nanotechnology.
That's right.
Whoa, what is this nanotechnology that
What
we
a
speak
segue.
of?
So
I don't know.
we're gonna talk about you don't know because if you don't know, it's gonna be a real short podcast. This is your
I just know
freaking thing.
nanu.
Nanotechnology.
Can I ask what Springer has to do with nanotechnology?
He was the transformer I bought yesterday.
And he was
Okay, then.
No, he
Originally, there was no connection. I was just bringing
he
toys.
was the future of Transformers. When the movie came out in '86, and the movie took place in the year 2005, when the treacherous Decepticons or Autobots, whatever they did, and he was brand new, cutting edge, like nanotechnology.
Oh.
And he's a three-way transformer.
He goes 3 ways.
I mean, a three-way.
Which one? A devil's
me.
three-way or the regular guy?
Depends who he hooks up with.
He's a biformer.
A biformer.
No, it's a triformer.
Oh, well, yeah.
A biformer is most of Transformers.
And he looks sharp and yellow and green.
Except for Six Shot, he's a sextformer.
Yeah, he's part of the Temple City Ramrodders.
Yeah, he is. Look at that. He's got Temple City colors.
going on.
Green and gold. All right, so let's go to nanotechnology. We're going to start with history, and we're just going to go ahead and walk through what we know. Kale's really the expert on this. Kale, haven't you, since you first heard of technology, when did you first hear of nanotechnology? In the 80s or 90s? Or when
It was the book that I read came out in 1988 and was called Unbounding the Future, and it was by K. Eric Drexler, but I did not read it until 1990.
What's the K stand for?
K?
Yeah.
For
Kick-Ass! Yeah! Get on the same wavelength.
I can't remember.
Kick-Ass 2, come do theater.
It's probably like Kevin or something like
We
that.
don't really care. He's just...
Right.
So
like Richard D. Oh, no,
when I first became friends with Kale,
Like
which
Philip
is
K. Dick. There's another unknown K. Maybe he was a special K.
Yeah.
Okay,
The K means clean.
that's not even
that's not
funny.
how you
What the
spell
hell?
it.
Philip K. Dick.
Clean dick? What?
Yeah. Kinda like,
Wow. Clean with a K.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't throw stumbling blocks in front of Joey.
Yeah.
Today,
I'm not.
since
My brain's going.
he's like 72 hours without sleep.
My brain right now is going. What's a good is going, dude? We're trying to talk about nanotechnology, while the other part is going. What's another good K word we can fit in there? Like kick dick, that rhymes. That's not bad. I gotta get on with the show. Okay.
Karate.
Killer clowns.
Klondike.
Oh, we already talked about
What'd you do for a Klondike dick?
Cooch. Oh, that's a C. No.
It can be a K for you.
All right,
guess.
I'll get you back on track, Joey. When you first met me,
Oh yeah, well, when we first met, you would talk about nanotechnology all the time about how it was the future and how everything's going to be so awesome about it. And I had never heard of it before. So, what were some of the things you heard? Well, what do you know? Why don't we just start history of nanotechnology? What is it? Where did it come from? Why is it different from regular technology?
well, it kind of originally started with, and I blinked on his name. He was a professor at Caltech.
You just hit the
And he
mic.
played.
Thank you very
I thought I would
He
shoot
played
further.
the bongos.
That was Springer. You played
Sheldon?
the bongo?
Springer did it.
He played the bongos. He was very famous.
God.
Come on.
Feynman. Richard
Yes,
Feynman.
thank you.
Oh yeah,
Richard-
yeah, yeah.
It basically all started with a
Mr. Bongo
talk that Richard Feynman gave at Caltech called "There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom," and
And Daryl,
Yeah, dude.
go ahead.
Daryl's just getting
The
us
K
back.
is for clean.
Yeah.
Daryl's just getting us back because we bagged on him.
So we're
on
talking
the
about Rihanna?
pre-ramble a few weeks ago.
And so what he speculated, and he said, I've investigated, and there doesn't seem to be any rules to preclude that we can make things at the nanoscale, which is a billionth of a meter. And so from that time forward, K. Eric Drexler, of course, listened to the talk, and very shortly after
Now he's
that,
K.R. Drexler.
K.R.
What'd you say?
K. Eric. It's always K first.
Oh, the K's first.
It's always first, yes.
Oh, well, let's
K.
have a
Eric
whole different joke fest on that then. Okay, yeah. What about Dressler?
Anyway, so
He sounds like a bad guy in a
very
science fiction
quickly
movie.
after
Yeah.
What's happened? It's Dressler.
It's Dressler.
He's trying to take over the world again.
Isn't it pronounced Drexler?
that's what I said, Drexler.
Okay.
Oh, Drexler?
These guys are saying
That's what I
Drexler.
said. Booty trap. Go
I know
ahead.
Clyde Drexler.
Drexler? Clyde? Who the
I
hell
know
is
Clyde Henderson.
You know, he sounds like he should be
I know Cale Henderson.
an evil principal in some movie. Like, I'm going to send you to Drexler's office. Yeah. Or he's like the police, he's the police commissioner.
It sounds like it. You're right. Like an 80s movie bad principal. Yeah. Drexler!
Yeah. But anyway, so Drexler, I don't think he was there when the talk was given, but he read it. And he totally could see, just like when I first read his book, I could see, oh my God, this is really going to become something.
You could see the nanotechnology.
I could see the potential of what was going to happen.
And just, computer components as of now, we're still working on mechanical things, but electronic components are being produced on that scale. Now 22 nanometer chip technology is becoming pretty commonplace. And that basically means you can have a resolution and detail the elements of the chip that are only 22 nanometers across. So we're getting there.
And basically, isn't the kind of the concept is to build machines out of atoms instead of using like metal parts to build machines to do things? We're using atoms to build machines that do things.
And don't you manipulate the atoms into different molecules? So you could take whatever.
Well, see, that's the cool thing is that when we get to the point where we're actually, I guess the first big goal, which we haven't really achieved yet, is to build what they call an assembler. And the assembler would be a basic nano machine that could build things out of molecules, like you were talking about, Paul. Okay. And so that's where we want to get, but we're kind of almost in between right now, where we're still making things on the micro scale. But as Daryl said, we're starting to get into the nano scale, but not really building things. Most of the stuff they're doing is like gee whiz stuff. Like they're building the IBM symbol out of individual
like furniture
gold
or something or whatever. Yeah.
But now they're actually starting to build things that are useful.
Intel put out a stop motion video of animation that they shot individual atoms. So they arranged them.
They killed.
So they're like, it looks like black dots moving around, but they individually placed each atom for every frame that they shot. Wow. And it makes they do a thing where their logo comes up and things like that. It's pretty cool.
Well, it kind of makes sense that we need to make an assembler because, of course, no matter how you look at it, it'll never be easy for us as non-nano beings to create small nano creations. So obviously the best way to make a creation is from something that's small, that has a program that tells it this is how you do it, and then we just say
it's not like we're going to build it by hand.
Yeah. Right, like we build a tweezer that holds a tweezer that holds a tweezer that holds a tweezer.
It's like a water jet or laser jet doing cutting aluminum or whatever out of thing. Then you're telling it on a smaller scale.
Well, yeah, and when you're working at that scale, you're working with protons and well, not what am I thinking of?
No, that's subatomic particles.
Yeah,
we're talking about
not protons. I'm thinking.
Electrons?
No, different types of atoms, when mixed together, are going to have different type of reactions, which will allow you to stick them together and things of that nature.
Bonds?
Bonds and James bonds. Okay. I don't really know where I'm going with this, so I'm just going to send it over to Kale. Hi. I mean, in my head, I got a picture of what I'm trying to say, but I don't know.
No, I could see what you're saying. But going back to... what we were talking about.
I can see what you're saying, but now back to what really makes sense.
Before our minds blow off.
Mine's there. Before our minds get off.
One of the good effects of nanotechnology will be
your mind all over me.
That they'll be able to build substances that are pure. Because right now, with chemistry, we can create a certain substance, but it's only going to be a certain, maybe 75% or even lower. Quite a bit it's lower than that. I guess 50% pure, but it still works okay. But by building things atom by atom, I'm going to smack the hell out of that tonight, I can see.
Yeah, hands off my dick. Yeah. And back to my penis!
No! So what you're saying is they're going to really screw up the Cash for Gold enterprise because you can just make gold.
Totally.
There goes the country.
No, but they'll be able to take individual atoms and manufacture a part on a very small scale, but it will be like super strong. They'll start using carbon nanotubes to build things.
Well, yeah, and the carbon structures that are useful on a nanoscale are the carbon atoms are positioned so that the bonds form a very strong structure compared to just say something like graphite, which obviously if you've used a pencil, you know that graphite just kind of shears off. But you can have the same exact material and make graphene out of it, and that can be like a 1 atom thick layer of carbon that can be useful in things like batteries and stuff like that. And then there are other the nanotubes, as you're talking about, are a different structure that's more rigid and a lot stronger.
Yeah,
and lightweight compared to most metals.
Well, maybe we should maybe what we should talk about now is the fact that what is the use of nanotechnology? Because if you think about it, I mean, just basically on what we've been talking about. Oh, look, we made a really, 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 really small machine. What the hell is that going to do? So I think we should talk about the point that it's not one nano machine that's going to make any difference in our lives. It's billions of nano machines all working towards a specific task. I mean, that was in the book originally, right?
Billions of trillions.
Yeah. Billions of trillions,
Like when Wesley released those nanites in Star Trek Next Generation.
I remember that episode, yes.
And it took over the ship.
I was trying to sleep this morning, and I put on Star Trek Next Generation. That was a mistake, because I was like, ooh, I like this episode. Ooh.
So one
This is the one where the guy takes over the ship. He's not part of the crew. Everybody's memory's gone. What's going on, dude?
So one application that it could possibly be used, then wouldn't it be is replicators?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Or self-replicating machines.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want nano... Well, I guess it would still make water, right?
Yeah,
well,
let me make anything.
Let me make one comparison just to kind of demonstrate the usefulness of it is you can think of things like cleaning agents that use natural enzymes in them. Well, those enzymes are just kind of like single cellular machines that are biological. Mm-hmm. So, we can find certain things that are useful in nature to do specific tasks. However, when we start getting more control of being able to build things using nanotechnology, we're going to be able to custom make these machines to perform a specific task instead of just having to try to find a particular biological machine that already exists. Because, if it's one thing if you want to have a cleaning agent that can break down materials to make things less smelly and whatnot, like pet odors or whatever. You can find enzymes that'll do that, but what if you need something more specifically, like a nano machine that can clean plaque out of someone's arteries without doing invasive surgery? That's something that, to our knowledge, doesn't exist in nature, but we can design it as a machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think there'll be 2 paths that we start off on. One will be the assembler path, and the other one will be specific, like Daryl was saying, specific nanomachines to do specific things. Mm-hmm. And those, because the assembler is more of a general idea, and if you want something to clean plaque out of the arteries, a specific nanomachine can do that. But I think eventually, and I don't know, I can't
It'll be little machines with very tiny toothbrushes.
Exactly.
Well, no, I think that eventually, I think the two,
by Colgate.
I think the 2 areas that probably are going to explode
the Colgate squad
in nanotechnology. It's the little plaque guys. The 2 areas that are going to explode is going to be nanotechnology for health and nanotechnology for construction. So basically, that's where the money's going to be. Is going to be
weapons.
Well, that's part of construction. What can nanobots build, and how can nanobots heal the body?
Well, they could deconstruct you. But the nanobots, instead of cleaning the plaque out, it destroys your heart.
It gives you plaque.
So you just have a guy drop dead.
Well, that's one of the things. And he, in his first book, Unbounding the Future, he didn't talk too much. At the end of it, he kind of talks a little bit about the negative effects of it and how dangerous this new technology can be. And that was one of the reasons that he wrote that book in the first place, was he wanted to bring this to people's attention, say, we need to think about the ethical issues now, because when it comes, it's going to, he didn't say like Ray Kurzweil about the law of accelerating returns, but that's what he was meaning. Yeah. He was saying it's going to start out slow and it's going to build, but eventually we're going to get, all of a sudden it's going to be here and it's going to take off, and we're going to go, oh, I guess we probably should have thought about whether we should do this or that or other.
Well, it'll be like magic, which would be
it'll seem that way.
It'll seem like magic to anyone who doesn't know. I mean, already for
tap your mana.
Already for us, who were born in this generation, and even for the ones before us, sometimes some of the computers and technology that we see coming out is magic. I mean, less so for Daryl, but I think I can say because he's very knowledgeable in that area. But for me, a computer is almost magical. Like the idea of how does it create all this just on these circuit boards? Because I don't know the basics of how a circuit board works, and that's not even at a nanoscale.
Magic.
Yeah, magic, exactly. And that's not anywhere, and that's not even a nanoscale. So then it's just like I see this green plastic thing, and it makes all these things possible. It basically creates a virtual world in this monitor that I can.
Integrated circuits are basically printed at a nanoscale, though. So it really kind of operates on that kind of scale.
And but that's just it. And we don't see any we see a virtual creation right now from our technology from such small workings. And like you're saying, electronic. But in the future, we're going to see physical manifestations of these things we can't see, which is going to look like magic. And that's just what you're saying is that for anyone who doesn't understand it, they can't control it. And if the people who understand it want to use it for ill, then we better have some people that want to use it for unill.
Well, there's studies going now. They're using on lab mice and whatever that. To treat cancer, and so it's like you can have somebody that may have cancer and inject them with these nanobots or shells or whatever they're called, and go in there and eat up all the cancer, be cured of it. You forget the chemo and the surgery and all that.
It makes perfect sense.
It is. It's magic. It's like going down to Mexico and they do the little Healy thing on you, but it's for real.
Well, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Wow, why does that sound familiar?
Because it's a quote.
Isn't that?
That's from Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, that's Arthur C. Clarke.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that was magic.
Wait, he's here?
Magical.
Johnson.
Oh, it's magic.
So yeah, and it's going to be, but that's a great point with like cancer because right now the difficulty with cancer is getting something that can go in and target it specifically without hurting the healthy cells. But if you have nanotechnology, if you have nanobots which are specifically programmed to target the cancer cell, they can be. I mean, that's precision at a nano level.
And not to drive us off of the subject of nanotech, but I think that we're going to be seeing, just like what Kurzweil said, GNR, right? We're not only going to see a big advancement in nanotech, but we're also going to see robotics and genetics. And
I get that joke now.
I think some of the genetic research, like there's going to be some overlap between nanotech and genetics that I foresee coming. Just like you were saying with, we can make a machine on a nanoscale that can target cancer cells and destroy them and leave healthy cells alone. But we're already finding some things in nature where there are bodies that can target the cancer cells as well and leave healthy cells alone that are based on viruses. And maybe, I've heard about a virus version, there might even be bacteria out there that can do that kind of thing. It's all hypothetical at this point. But I think it's going to be kind of like a race to the finish line. Will genetic research find a solution first, or do we have to build it ourselves using nanotech?
Yeah. The one thing, and this is far down the future, is that I think eventually that I want to say machines,
that doesn't go very far,
as opposed to genetics or there's a word I'm blanking on it, the physical world, the natural, like the viruses and that type of thing, that eventually we're going to get to the point with our nanotechnology where we're going to be able to program biological machines. And those will ultimately be the things that will be part of our body, probably part of our DNA, so that it's self-replicating and it just takes care of the problems that are in our bodies.
Yeah, in the book I'm reading right now by David Eagleman,
Can't believe I forgot biological.
It's a tough word, man.
Oh my God.
called Incognita. They talk about how one of the problems we're having with being able to control things like nanotechnology, because we can't do it ourselves. We need some sort of artificial intelligence. And he's saying the problem with artificial intelligence is the simple fact that when we program things today, we're always looking for one specific answer. And in biology, it doesn't seem like that's what works. What happens is there are multitudes of competing factions, like almost separate minds, which are going against each other. And there are multiple overlaying right answers. And I think if we want to control nanotechnology, that's how it's going to need to be controlled. It's not because when you've got all of these, bots basically that need to be controlled. I don't think you can have a simple program that can control them. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, that's kind of what DNA is, because DNA controls your cells, and then your cells know what to do based on it's. Mathematically, it's a genetic algorithm. It's just something that reproduces itself, and it'll do different things based on its nearest neighbors. So you can, create macro structures that are made out of, billions and billions of nano bots. So it would be like cells forming a larger whole.
Well, going back to what you were saying about making a nanobot doing a specific thing, eventually the goal is going to be, at least for health-wise, is that you have a medical nanobot, and it's a generalized bot that will do many, many things and can be reprogrammed to do specific things that it wasn't originally planned for. Just like when we originally built computers, most of them were for one specific thing, and eventually computers got generalized so that they do a multitude of things. And now I think that's what's going to happen to nanobots or nanomachines. They'll become more. They'll be a continuation of computers, but just on the nano scale.
It reminds me or I think that it would be something like the future of vaccines. So they inject you with the nanobots. And they program it like, okay, you will attack polio cells, or you will attack this disease, or this strain, or this bacteria, whatever.
Because polio is a problem.
And then if something else comes out, then you go in and then get reprogrammed, like, now this new strain or whatever, because it'd be awesome if it was like, we would cure the common cold.
A universal vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, Alan Turing was, integral in developing early computers, and his idea of a computer was that it was a universal machine, or a universal tool. In other words, it's something that you can basically just repurpose to accomplish pretty much anything you want. And
strangely like the brain. We have created the brain artificially without even knowing it.
But it's exactly like you were saying. You can have a computer, just by reprogramming it, you can have it do something that was never originally built to accomplish, making it therefore, infinitely,
like hacking it.
Yeah, like hacking it, you can just make it do things that were never anticipated. So I think nanotechnology will probably have elements of that in it.
And jailbreak my nanobots.
Yeah.
I wonder if it could enhance your body some way. What do you think, Paul?
Well, there are probably medical reasons
well, I know
for that.
Where this is going.
My guess, if they could repair a heart, like if they can go in there and make the heart stronger and stuff,
harder.
Why can't I make your penis bigger?
I hereby hand over my penis to you, Paul.
Thank you. So
wait.
I don't want to watch that. Okay.
It takes me back.
Yeah.
But seriously, maybe like in
see last episode.
Maybe it could be for impotence. It could like fix your blood cells going in there, so it keeps you erected.
I was watching this show, and I just turned on. It was like How Sex Works or something. I didn't really see what the title was. All of a sudden, it was
Sex for Dummies.
It was this guy comes out. He's like, "Yeah, I had to go." There was two guys hunting, and it was like the young guy's like, "I had to go to my dad and said, Dad, I've never gotten an erection before." And then they start talking about how this guy's got this problem where he doesn't get blood flow to get an erection. Then he's got his pants off and he's showing this pump he got genetically installed, or not genetically. Yeah, it was blurred, but it was still like, whoa, this guy's showing a lot.
It's where they
he pumps himself up.
Yeah, instead of a testicle, it's a pump.
Yeah, it pumps.
You'll see how the nanobots would make it less evasive.
Yeah.
and you
They
can
were
hide
hunting at the beginning for some reason. I don't know.
That was
why.
the most awkward episode of Duck Dynasty I ever saw.
Damn! I know there's quackers out here, but I gotta tell you about my dick.
Oh my God, that's true.
Well, so yeah, it could, or maybe in the world of plastic surgery, it could firm your skin so you look younger.
Well, that's the thing is, I think that the nanobots can flow into there and, and make it longer,
Yes,
bigger and
wider,
uncut.
and have a greater circumference.
Well, if you think about it, just on
Honey, I'm sporting a nano
back
for
to
you.
I thought, honey, I shrunk my dick.
back to the, but that's just it. Back to the whole magic or superhero thing. I mean, if you got nanobots inside of you that can extend things, maybe they could like just extend other parts of your body, like give you this like huge fist to just like.
Well, just like
Superhero.
mitochondria create energy in your muscles, I'm sure there's definitely going to be ways for nanobots to enhance the mechanical.
Well, there's one of the ethical concerns.
Yeah.
What will that do for sports competitions?
Oh, of course they'll outlaw
to
it.
be doping it.
Right.
They'll outlaw it. But
Entertainment will always win out on that. I think when it comes down to it in the future, if there's a possibility for higher levels of entertainment, you're going to get a split-off group that uses these genetically enhanced things, and it's more entertaining, so people are going to watch that, and the old stuff will just be boring.
yeah.
Well, but then what about for something like the Olympics, where it's based on, it's supposed to be based on human athletic achievement?
It'll keep going on, but
dirtiest.
like Joey said, it's always entertainment that wins out. So they'll have like the Ultra Olympics or something, where you get to watch people
Like
jump a mile.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, what do you want to watch? The guy just jumps like 20 feet, or a guy just
It will be regulated in professional sports because of Vegas, because of the money.
Yeah.
You can't
Well,
unless it's accepted and it changes everything. It has if it's illegal, it's.
No, I agree. I think it will be regulated, but I think it will be regulated different from what we see now, where we're saying nothing enhancing. There will be things where you can, in this league, we enhance up to this point, but don't use this crap over here. And there'll always be the underground stuff where they're doing stuff that's dangerous to the athletes.
There'll probably be a delimitation between things that have potential harm and things that are going to be, deemed to be quite safe.
Well, like with most of that kind of thing, is that it's just time, and it takes for the people to grow old enough and die who care. And then the people who are left, they accept things. Like, I remember reading this article about the invention of the new ski, which actually adjusts itself as you're skiing. And when that first came out with that technology, it made people so much better skiers. And so they outlawed it in the Olympics. They wouldn't let them do it. Right. And now, here we are today, probably, 60 years or even longer, that was invented, that type of ski that adjusts itself. And now it's all part of the Olympics. They use it. It's not even thought of as something different. Yeah, everybody uses it.
Yeah, I mean, sports technology, it changes everything, and people think that it takes the purity out of the sport, but it just, like you said, enhances it and just makes it better. That just becomes the norm.
Yeah, and when it comes down to sports, it comes down to entertainment. And as technology gets better, it's going to improve the entertainment of sports. And where the almighty dollar is, will be where the entertainment is. Yeah. Wait, I said that backwards, but you get what I'm saying.
I understood with your garbled speech. Yeah, you're still understandable.
So, let's see here. We talked about a little bit of the history about what it can do. Let's stay on that idea. We talked about some medical ideas.
Yeah, we talked about a few things, but I think one of the interesting things, like we were talking about reprogramming nanotech and having it be based on kind of the genetic formula, you might be able to start doing things where you build structures, building-sized, house-sized structures that are just composed of nanobots. And it would be interesting because you could do things like, I'm having a few extra people over for the weekend, so I want to convert one of my rooms into a new bedroom. And it could actually be a thing where you just reprogram the house, and all of a sudden a bed pops out of the wall, and like a new partition drops down, and this completely reconfigured.
That could be really funny. You could screw with people, like, the bathroom's over there, and bam, a wall shows up.
Or if you had a Pizza Hut, you could copy that Pizza Hut. Never mind. It's from South Park, except it was stem cells.
Yeah.
So if you had stem cells, so they could turn into anything. So if I had a Pizza Hut, next to it, I could make the stem cells make my own Pizza Hut.
Well, that's ultimately where...
I guess you could do that with nanotechnology.
Well, that's the thing is with nanotechnology, I guess ultimately what would happen is the Star Trek's replicator.
Now, what would that do to the economy, though? Because now all of a sudden, let's say it's after nanotechnology, and let's say replication basically is everywhere. There's nanobots everywhere. You can make anything for just about nothing. Where's the economy go?
Well,
then everyone
It's going to cost $4 billion to buy one of those machines. Or you can still go to Walmart and get everything for $5.
Well, in Star Trek, remember, they don't really have an economy anymore. And that's,
Yeah, right.
they don't have money.
they don't have money because,
Who wrote Radical Abundance? Is that
That's it. Eric Drexler.
It is Drexler. Who wrote
Drexler!
Because that's one of the concepts of nanotech and robotics to a certain extent is that if we get artificial intelligence that's smart enough to do people work, and we're superseded by things that can think better than us, stay on task longer than us, perform better than us in every way, why do we still need to work? And if nanotechnology means that we can turn raw materials into practically anything we need them to be, then you're right. What does happen to the economy? I think it just basically means that there would be plenty for everyone.
everybody. Yeah, that does kind of make sense because if you think about it, I mean, the limitations to having plenty for everyone is really technology because think about the sun. I mean, the sun offers enough energy to power everything. I mean, it powers, the whole solar system, powers the Earth. But we just don't have the technology to collect it and use it, so we have all these energy crisis things. So when nanotechnology gets to that point, it's very possible that the idea of even an economy is a thing of the past. And we're all going to do, like they say in Star Trek, where we follow our heart's desires. We do things that we want to expand ourselves. It's like kind of, we're all retired, but we still do work. We do the work that we want to do.
Well, the planet would have to do that as a whole, which I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future because it's at first
it takes some
it's going to have
probably.
money's going to be controlling nanotechnology. It's not just going to be like it's created. They're funding everything. Yeah. They'll control everything.
And that's the thing is that
it'll be Monsanto nanotech.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Is that
I don't think that
the definition of what being rich will be something different than we think of it now. Instead of being financial, it'll just be power to do certain things, and who knows? Maybe it'll even be like a feudal system where the rich people will have to have noblesse oblige, like the nobles of the ancient times, where basically I'm so great and powerful, I have to take care of the little people. It's my duty, and so. Duty, yes, I knew.
I'm kind of hoping it would lead to like another renaissance because it might take a few generations for people to get out of the habit of I need to have a 9 to 5 and I need to go work. To maybe a few generations, people will go, now I can pursue my own interests rather than trying to earn a buck. And I think that could lead to just a really big burst in creativity. Maybe the arts would flourish if people don't have to worry about putting food on the table.
I think it's going to take a while though because what do you hear about people who retire from their jobs and when they're older? They're the ones who die quicker. Basically,
and they're the ones 2 years later that are back at work.
Or one of the exactly because they don't have any purpose in life anymore.
Explain die quicker.
Well, no, they. Okay,
physically die.
I don't have any proof of this. This is my opinion from what I've heard, from things I've read. But as much as I can remember, these were statistics that were true. Basically, people. I think it's from actually. Younger the better.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
Not younger the better, but younger next year.
The younger the better?
Okay.
That was in the younger the
I can actually...
I totally missed that plot point.
Okay.
Mike, if you're listening to this, we'll have to discuss this later.
Okay. Not the younger the better, but as we always call it.
Younger next year.
Younger next year, which is... So I actually got a...
We could never remember the name of the book, so we kept calling it Younger the Better.
So... That's right. You guys didn't know about that. Kayla and I do it all the time because because from when Paul watched The Younger the Better, that's why I always called it Younger the Better. And Mikhail jumped on the bandwagon like Younger the Better.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
But in Younger,
I agree.
In Younger next year, they tell how
You guys are sick.
people
You're all
who
pedos.
retire early
I do use it
and don't have some form of stimulus in their life because they're just on like
They need to
perfect
watch The
vacation.
Younger the Better.
Yeah, exactly. Will have a greater inclination to be sick, get disease, and die earlier than those who have some sort of purpose, whether it's volunteer work, a job, or something like that. And I think that at first, a lot of people, like today, we think of retirement as the ultimate thing where we don't have to do anything. And I think that is kind of a death sentence where when you don't have to do anything, and when you're not forced to do anything, it's really going to affect your health and well-being.
The problem is that when you think about that, you think that's going to be great.
Right.
But the problem is not having a purpose or to do anything really sucks.
I know. I can tell as a teacher because it's like, wow, you guys get 3 months off, which is great. But if you don't have something to do with those 3 months, it's not great. It really
But I
isn't.
think this is going to be a skill thing where people will, find ways to occupy themselves. It's
I
not
think
like
they will.
people will do nothing. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
It'll
that
be like
you,
on Wall-E.
you would have
You sit on a
you would
cruise
have
ship.
the financial pressures taken off of you, and then you could pursue things that are of more personal interest. to
That's
you.
how Star Trek
I
was.
agree that will eventually
Right.
happen. But what I'm saying is I don't think that will happen at first because there's
And it's not. That's what where we're at. We're at the beginning of that, which is great disruption.
Well, it's
And that's what it's going to continue probably for the next 60 years.
Like I said,
this
if-
big
it'll take a few
disruption.
generations.
And that's what I'm saying is because I think what I've learned, having time off to do what I want and not doing it, I know a lot of it has to do with me as who I am, but I know a lot of people are like that as well. If you don't have an outside force, because we're a very social creature, if you don't have an outside force like a job that's pushing you in a direction, you may want to do something really bad, and when you get the extra time, you're not going to do it. And I think it's going to take, like you're saying, Daryl, a few generations to where people will learn, you are responsible for yourself, and these are strategies to help you get what you want out of life. Or maybe a new network will be constructed where you join groups that help you, and it's like a job, but it's not, or some sort
Well,
of something.
people are, business people are already, I've read several books where they're already noticing that what's going to be important in the future is creativity. That's really what's going to be important. And because machines are going to quickly, and when I say quickly, I mean within the next 30 years, take over all the mundane jobs, everything that most people do for a living now, it's all going to be done by machines. So really, what do we have to contribute? And it's going to take the longest for machines to become creative. And that's what we can bring to the table before then.
I think we need to look at it also as we are a network, a social network. We're, in a way, the Earth is an organism, and we're the different parts of it. And in order for it to keep going, there will always be some place for us to be and something for us to do. And even if it's not what we can see now, remember when machines and computers started coming out, everyone's like, oh, there's not going to be any jobs left, and here we are in the future, and, we don't have...
Jobs just become different.
They just become different. There's no assembly... What's it called? Assembly
Line.
thank you. There's no assembly lines anymore except for robots, but, maybe those people...
Well, there's still child labor.
None. Yeah. But, I mean, all the jobs
most-
that robots took over have...
Many of them moved out of the country, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then as things follow, the technology will go to those other countries, and the same thing will happen. Mm-hmm. But there'll be other jobs. But the question is, that comes with also the population becoming more educated and getting jobs that require more skills.
There's like with us being social groups and being like a collective is if we get nanobots in us and stuff, whether it's doing vaccine or whatever, and it
No.
That's fun, huh?
So what I'm thinking is the nanobots will make us a collective force and we'll turn into the Borg.
A big collective, huh?
Well, that's a possibility. You know what I'm looking forward to is when the nanobots we're doing a podcast like this in the future, and I just bring my phone up and the nanobots are in my body, and I go swamp ass. And the nanobots go down, and they take care of this horrible swamp ass I have.
Yes.
It's so freaking hot in here, and I'm sweating.
What I'm looking forward to in the future of our podcast is that as we're talking and doing the podcast, it's assembling the program is assembling the show notes and putting in the links.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so great.
So we just do the podcast.
Actually,
and everything else gets done.
I'm gonna be at home still in bed, and the podcast is being recorded.
Yeah.
For me.
I'm waiting for the late night infomercials where they're selling like nanobots that'll clean your cat's litter box.
There you go.
Dude.
And it's for $19.95, but act now and you get 2 nanobots for the price of 1.
Forget all that. I'm waiting for when we just send the nanobots to record the whole podcast. We don't have to do anything. Wait, maybe
that doesn't
that was
sound
my
good.
still in bed comment.
Oh, that was. Well, you said
Well,
record.
you
I
can
thought
lay
you
there
meant-
and not speak and just send your mind to the podcast, and then you'll just send your thoughts and it'll come out as speech.
Or
for other
nanobots
people.
can go in you and check your colon instead of having your doctor stick his finger up your butt.
You sound a little.
You sound a little,
sorry.
a little upset about that. Have you had a bad experience?
No,
I was like,
I
you're
have
not old.
had that happen.
You're
at
not
all.
old enough for that yet.
I had it as a kid though.
What?
Yeah.
That was just a priest doctor.
I don't know.
Priest doctor.
You didn't need it.
I don't know. I don't know how he did it with both his hands on my shoulders too.
Whoa.
Hey.
Thank you for taking.
Well, now it's
Thank you for taking.
Wowzers.
now it's time to take a left
realm
turn
of
back
my
to the
penis.
subject
Please.
and talk about something that Paul brought up that was not anything
penis.
to do with his penis.
Or rape.
It's called.
What? Oh well, yeah.
The problem is, it's going to sound so horrible now because the term is called gray goo.
And that's the reason to go to the
saw
doctor.
that too.
If it's coming out
my
gray
God.
goo, you need to go get something stuck up your ass from a doctor or
Check
something.
You know, I should have brought this up before we got into all that because now everything I'm say that it's going to make us laugh.
Gray goo.
Great goo.
A good gray goo.
The problem that Eric
Dresser!
says is going to happen is with so many nanobots and so many replicators that there's a fear that they're just going to keep replicating themselves and more until
Like a snowball effect.
yeah, exactly.
I hate getting snowballed.
And so then there will just be it'll eat up everything on Earth, and the planet will be
Full of
Great.
spooge.
No felching way!
yes, exactly.
So it just. What'd you say? I
Okay.
don't know what you said.
Okay, here's the gray
So
goo.
they self-replicate. So nanobots making nanobots?
Yeah,
Yeah, but they're using materials. Any material they can get because it's
Yeah.
atoms, right? So
Yeah.
the nanobots come to the table and they take all the atoms and make new nanobots. And then those nanobots come and go to our bodies and take all the atoms and make new nanobots. They go to anything and everything they eat, they use for materials to make new nanobots. And they just keep growing and growing till
So-
there's
And it'd
nothing
be-
left but
it'd be
all these
exponential.
nanobots.
yeah, exponential.
So you just have a gray goo.
It's like the zombie apocalypse, only they're really small zombies.
Because you don't really see them.
Yeah.
You
I
don't
guess that's
see them
good
because they're
one.
too small, but when they're all together, there's this
So,
gray goo.
I mean, it's like evolution. I mean, the primordial soup.
Almost a virus
and stuff
type thing,
and
yeah.
turning into the DNA.
And it's possible. I mean, if you
Right.
could...
Molecules, right?
But life forms, they need to have a food source and an energy source and all that stuff. So we're talking about something that could literally turn the entire Earth into itself.
Yeah, and think about
because
But
it's,
wouldn't nanobots need an energy source too?
the sun.
yeah, but if they're like solar powered, then they
Imagine you made
got
one
all they need.
nanobot. Okay, you had the power to make a nanobot, and you programmed it. Whenever you find any material you find, use it to make a new nanobot exactly like yourself that has the same program as you. So that nanobot goes and makes another one. Now you got 2 nanobots that make 4, and then it keeps
Yeah,
going and
yeah,
going.
right.
And that's the problem. That's the biggest issue with this is that we need to have something to stop that from happening.
Yeah, it's like when on Stargate, the replicators on Stargate, the TV show, that's what they did. Wherever they went, they just took over everything and turned everything into them.
So I
it
mean,
needs to have a kill
Drexler says that he
something.
Yeah, you
theorizes
need kill
that this
switch, right.
stuff could be avoidable. You just have to have some smart programming, and then.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's a lot of the same kind of fears that we have over genetic research because you want to assure that anyone who's carrying out this stuff is going to be both competent and
Ethical?
ethical. Thank you.
Welcome.
So the thing is, it could take like one incompetent company
That's a
making
good point.
nanomachines to basically screw the whole earth.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't have to be an evil guy.
Corruption,
It's just
right.
someone who doesn't think before they make a nanobot.
You know, the
not
analogy I'm
just
thinking of is...
But what if there's just a bug? Like, they program it, they like write nanobot firmware, but there's some bug that has a really weird thing, and maybe it doesn't even reveal itself right away. Like it's something that happens like every trillionth nanobot. There's one that goes like turns into a cancer nanobot, right? So it could be rather unpredictable until it actually happens, and then you find out, okay, so only 1 in a trillion of these turns into a cancerous one, but each one of those cancerous ones makes more.
Yeah, they're each making, they're doubling every time.
Well, I think
so
you can look
they go
to,
out of control after
I think
that,
you
at
can
a
look
certain
to
point.
nature for that exact, to see what would happen if that happened. What you have in nature is that, yes, you do have that, but you have ways to combat it. It's like when people first talked about computer programs and viruses. Oh my God, the viruses are going to take over everything. But that's not what happened. We developed an antivirus,
That's
and
true.
that's
You
what
could-
we will
you could
do.
inoculate.
Well, the fear
Exactly.
is that it'll
Right.
be too late. That nature
Right,
has
because
a
that
way
is
to
part of
fix
the-
it, but we won't be part of the solution.
That
We'll
is
be
part of the
afterthought.
problem because of the
They'll fix it later.
exponential nature
Right.
of it.
You know what?
By the time it's discovered,
Nature
it might
finds a way.
be one of those things where like the Earth has like 2 weeks. Like we'd better find a way to inoculate.
Hey, nature! Come on!
Drexler! But it could also be
Mother Earth!
It could be one of those things like you think about computers, as technology grows, think about when viruses start. I mean, they have to start at a basic level. You don't have a virus that can take over the world. So as the viruses grow, the inoculations grow.
Yeah.
So you figure that same thing for nanobots. It's kind of going to be a balance. As the dangers come up, then we'll face each one of them.
It just it feels precarious though because there's so much at stake
And that we don't know.
If the virus gets spread and goes to people and may kill people, but with the nanobots, it's going to take up physical space.
Right. Like when you're talking about like a virus unleashed on the internet, the worst it's going to do is take our computers away from us, which is
Bad,
especially with how much we depend
Especially our
upon them.
economy is all virtual.
Right. But we're talking
Credit.
about something that could, out of control nanotechnology could literally, it'd be analogous to disintegrating everything on the entire planet and turning it into these machines.
Well, and the scary part is that if it's simplistic enough that it could be probably not easily done right now, but once the technology is there, that it can be done easily, and there's just no stopping it because it's on a level that is beyond our reach unless we have the tools. I mean, how do you stop something that is nanometers when you are...
With other nanobots.
That's the hope.
And that's the thing. It'll be like not
premise.
physically, like with your computer has blockage.
I hate it.
Blocks off
Speaking of
all the
blockage.
viruses coming into your computer, but you have like a surrounding area around you of nanobots that when anything tries to get you, your defenses kick in and keep it from
We
happening.
need like the SEAL Team 6 version of nanobots.
Well, but that's what the scary thing is that it could happen so fast. Maybe we don't have the ability, and we are basically. But we're seeing it from our point of view now, where we don't have the ability to control nanotechnology, like the virus thing. Like we have the ability to we can control computers now because they're everywhere. So maybe in the future, when nanobots are everywhere, this is not something you need to worry about. I feel like it's a loss of control because what do I do when I've got all these nanobots coming at me? There's nothing I can do. But if I have my own nanobots,
well, and I picture like you're talking about the gray goo, that it's this slow blob thing coming after people. It could be instant. And who knows how fast they'll do it. Viruses, you can quarantine people, you can burn it, you could just throw them all into an
That's
island
one
or
thing
something.
I was
where
going to-
nanobots, it's
One,
out there.
One thing I was going to bring up when I talked about, like, say, a house that can reconfigure the interior walls and all that stuff. Who's to say that there won't be, like, a speed up in technology? Like, maybe early on when this technology is new, you might have to say, like, enter the new program for your new layout of the interior. And you can actually maybe slowly see things moving, shifting, growing, whatever, to make the new arrangement. Maybe after the technology improves sufficiently, it might be one of those things where it could actually bowl you over if you got in the way of it.
Yeah.
Right.
that's a good point.
And then the just one of the applications for if that kind of technology does get to the point where it can be reprogrammed and speedily changed from one shape to another, that would affect transportation in a pretty big way. Because if you think about it, you could have something like a car that would automatically reconfigure itself based on the number of passengers and the amount of cargo you're carrying. So the car could be sleek and have a low profile when you're just driving yourself to work. But if you go to the grocery store or say the warehouse store and you pick up a whole bunch of stuff, suddenly the car grows in size a little bit and you have the space to put all your groceries.
Knight Rider 2000.
That's right.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Well,
except it was pretty cheesy.
Or airplanes that might have the whole airplane could be a wing surface during takeoff for extra lift, and then it would shrink down to being something more like a stiletto. Cool, once it gets moving fast.
Thinking of that, you may, if it's not going to be a fixed amount of nanobots that would do that, like you're talking about, like let's say you have a sports car or you have a compact car, and then like all 8 of us are going to go somewhere or whatever, and then it's a big giant bus to go up. Now to go back to the car, what about those extra nanobots that it replicated to make the bigger? What happens to those? Is there maybe a device to destroy the other ones?
In that situation, I think it would be just like you have a fixed amount of material. And if the technology gets crazy enough, it might be one of those things where you might have 2 family cars in the garage.
Yeah.
And when you need something bigger, you combine both of them. Or you just have
and you put it back like, no, man, that was my steering wheel.
Or you have extra material hanging on the wall that you just say, oh, I have to take a lot of people today. I'm gonna throw in an extra.
Yeah, so you have like a little tank there.
There's also another aspect of this that we need to think about, which is that the farther down you get, the more space there is between things, so that you could just compact it smaller down. Right. You would not notice that there's more material there. The weight
it's denser.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is that if you need a compartment now to carry your groceries, it expands out, and it looks like it expanded out and go. But what it did was it just created more the nanobots.
It could be a thinner shell.
Yeah, exactly, but still as strong.
Or possibly the nanobots are made of complexes that they separate themselves into things like helium or hydrogen and oxygen. It just goes into the air, and then when it's taken out,
the bots could just take apart the molecules and leave the atoms to flow free.
And now here's a thought that Daryl hit on, which I thought was pretty brilliant when he was talking about the door.
Thank you.
I think the first thing we're going to do when we make nanobots that produce things is we're going to make sure the one thing that they don't take as material is organic material. There will be a safety put into there, because you don't want to have it building your door or whatever, and you put your hand in, and suddenly it takes the materials from your hand and turns it into the door. So one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to make sure that the programs say, you come across organic material, you do not use it to make your door.
So if you have like a prosthetic limb or something, you're kind of
yeah, don't stick your prosthetic limb.
You kick the door open because you have groceries and it's like gone. Damn it!
But no, I think that helps the gray goo. Oh, it's hitting. I'm getting
alien spooge.
I'm falling. Ew. The idea is that when the gray goo starts to come towards us, it doesn't, unless somebody programmed it specifically to take organic material out, it won't do that.
Well, then if they're programmable and someone makes a virus that is flesh eating or something, then we're all kind of in trouble.
And then we come down to the whole evil thing, which I think most people are pretty much good.
Yeah.
And those who aren't are pretty dumb. So.
Well. I'm looking at the time, and I want to get into telling you guys about what I was going to talk about before the podcast, which is my idea of a positive use of nanotechnology for someone that has mental problems.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about that.
And like if somebody in the future, they'll be able to look at somebody's brain and see the pattern of like depression. You'll be able to see this is kind of basically what makes depression. This pattern of neurons in your brain.
Well, hold on. Let me preempt this, and then I'm going to, this is a good introduction. Back to the book I was reading, because I think he used a very good example of this, saying that if this is David Eagleman's Incognito. He said if a criminal like kills someone, but they were sleepwalking, and it was proved that they were, then we don't find them culpable because they have a brain problem that we can detect. And that's what actually happened once a guy killed his like in-laws, and he was sleepwalking, and they proved it, that he has this problem, so he was let go. So, but that's the point, is we don't have the ability right now to see anything but the major brain problems. So it's very possible that criminals out there have a brain problem that's just too small for us to see. And the idea he used was that, imagine you're on a space shuttle, you're an astronaut looking down at the Earth. And you could see certain things at the Earth. Like, you could see if there's a major forest fire, you could see if there's a volcano erupting, or like a hurricane, and you can get kind of an idea of the major events happening on Earth. But if there's a riot in a city because of something that's happening, or something on a much smaller level that you can't tell what the political climate is, you can't tell those things. That's the problem with the brain. Everything's so small and condensed. So I think the only way we'll ever see that is nanobots, and being able to fix it is nanobots.
We have a 30,000 foot view of brain.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is they're already starting to detect things like they detected what they call the warrior gene, which
warrior.
It was just a battle.
It sounds cool, but actually what it means is that you're a sociopath.
Did they find the ultimate warrior gene?
They did, I guess. But
check the show notes.
Yeah. Anyway,
if we ever get to them.
Back to what I was saying, what you're talking about is a brain pattern that is it for a criminal behavior or a murder or something like that. But going back to the depression angle, that we'll be able to detect what that pattern is, and then we program the nanobots to go in and change your synapses and your connections and turn it into what we would normal brain activity, and all of a sudden, boom, you're no longer depressed. Or that criminal behavior no longer appeals to you.
I just want to add that concept of there being like a generalized pattern, though, is maybe a little theoretical at this point.
I think it's highly theoretical, but I think that what the point is that we will be able to get to that point.
Well, no, I mean even that the concept of whether or not the brain actually works that way.
Oh, I think that it's obvious from the brain scans that they've been able to do that there are sections of our brains that do certain things. Sure. And I think that and obviously this is my speculation, that we get to the point where we can see the patterns, and they will be there. I'm almost sure they will be there, and we'll be able to detect them. And once we know that this is generally what a normal brain looks like, that when it deviates from that, when we're talking about scanning thousands and thousands of people and finding a baseline, and all we have to do is guide people's brains back to a similar brain pattern, and
what we deem normal.
But then
better.
Yeah.
Socially acceptable.
I'm not saying it's possible. I'm speculating.
But here's the thing. But to add on to what you're saying and to address what you're saying, Daryl, the idea, remember, and this is something that when I was taking some psychology classes, because I was majoring in it for a while in college, I remember I took biological psychology, and I remember the teacher saying, everything that happens in your mind is biological. And in the book I'm reading now, he's saying the same thing. We just can't see it yet. Mm-hmm. So there is some certain reason why we do what we do, and it's the whole idea of free will. Like, just because we don't believe that what we're doing is determinism, we think it's free will, doesn't mean that it is. It's very possible that everything that's happening is because of the structures and patterns in our brain, whether we're a criminal or whether we're not. And looking at it that way, there's a very strong possibility that, especially with nanobots, we would have the technology to go in there and make changes to what we deem socially acceptable to help society and get rid of the not so good things.
So it'd be part of like a rehab program for
criminals. Except you wouldn't be taking pills like you take pills now for depression, and that helps. It's not bad, but I mean.
Doesn't cure it.
It doesn't cure it. It doesn't go in there and fixes it. I think the pills of the future will be nanobots. You'll take nanobots who will go in and
but here's the
HMO covers that.
Here's the thing, though, is that since we don't have the understanding yet of exactly how something like depression operates, we do know that there are certain chemical imbalances that can definitely make it worse. So if that's brought back into balance, that's a start to curing it. But we don't know for sure if if like we say, we can spot a generalized pattern of people who are depressed, if we bring that pattern into something that resembles a non-depressed person, what does that do to that person's personality? That's the kind of thing that we don't understand
Very true.
yet, and we don't have a clear picture of if that's something that can be separated from the rest of the person.
Well, and that's like, yeah,
like curing the depression might fundamentally change their personality.
Right.
But it could help, like, in...
Well, I know that and that's exactly the case with Phineas Gage, where he gets a spike through the head, a tamping rod through the head, and
even through the head.
Yeah, where they pulled the tamping rod because he was tamping
it up pretty good.
The dynamite down in, and it exploded, and the tamping rod went through his brain. But the thing is with him is that he was still alive, he was fully functional as a person, but it changed his personality. So what Daryl's saying is true, that, and I don't doubt that when they first start to, figure out the patterns of our brains and how things are, I guess I'm thinking of it as a pattern, but maybe it's not a pattern. Maybe we'll just understand better how to arrange things.
Well, and even today, with a lot of the drugs, I mean, that's what happens with the side effects, especially with schizophrenia. People who are schizophrenics will stop taking their medicine because even though they're better off the medicine, it changes them in a way that they don't like. Schizophrenics like to be out in the open. They like to be free. They don't want to have any constraints on them. They want to live free, so to speak. And society wants them to, have a house, have a job, and all this other stuff, which happens when they take the drugs. But it's a change in personality. And I think what it comes down to is it's the same thing. Is if nanobots go in to change our brain for the better, it's going to be is it worth the change? And so the side effect will be a change in personality. But keep in mind that our personality is always changing from moment to moment. Every experience we have changes our personality. So this is just a more extreme example of that. And if that takes away tendencies of extreme depression, that's a choice you have to make. Is it worth that I may be a slightly different person, or maybe a majorly different person, will my personality change, but I'm not going to be depressed anymore? And I think for me, if it was major, I'd probably go, okay, let's see what happens, because there's still going to be me, it's just going to be a different
Well, that's
form.
what will help in medical field and stuff. It's like all the studies now on football players where, it's just coming now where players who have had so many concussions throughout their career is seeing the effects now, whether it be memory loss or suicidal tendencies. I mean, it wasn't a big deal until Junior Seau from the Chargers killed himself. Mm-hmm. And now it's serious of like, look, here's somebody who was a good guy, normal, whatever, I
remember
society,
hearing about that.
Good piece of the community in San Diego, was a model citizen and everything. And then what you didn't know was that he would have suicidal tendencies and bouts of depression and stuff, and they're linking it back to his concussions. And he took it to the point to where he killed himself.
Well, the guy that was on the...
So maybe he can heal those concussions when they happen.
Yeah, they think that also that Muhammad Ali's Parkinson's was brought on by the, taking too many shots to the head.
The guy who, on the Texas Tower that shot all those people...
right.
In the 60s, I forget, but they talked about it in the book. And the fact is that he was writing in his notes, in his journal, how something's wrong with me. I have these violent tendencies all of a sudden. Please, when after this is done, open my brain and tell me what's wrong. He couldn't control it, and they opened his brain. There's this huge tumor pressing against his amygdala and basically suppressing everything. So he was there going, he went and killed his wife, who he loved, and his mother before he went and killed them. And he puts in his suicide note, he writes, you may see this as a horrible act, but I did it as quickly as possible. I just felt I needed to do it. And so it's one of those situations where this guy did a horrible thing. He killed 13 people, yet it has been scientifically proved it was because he had a tumor, because he was a normal guy beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's so much we don't know, obviously, but the good thing about speculating about the future is that quite often, looking this far out, we don't have to see the specifics of things to interpret where the flow of the future might go. Mm-hmm. And because we can do that, and the example of when I first read that book, Unbounding the Future, so long ago, a lot of people read the book and was like, oh, that sounds like science fiction.
Yeah.
And when I read the book, I could see the potential.
Well, it was science fiction at the time.
Sure.
You look at, anything.
Well,
our
his new
phones
book,
are-
which I haven't finished and I
It's
was
still
going
science
to,
fiction.
is
it's magic.
radical abundance. In there, he talks about
science fiction.
how
in the
now
spaceship
we're
here.
starting to see the patterns of where we can go with this technology, where it's showing that inverse proportional speed is why computers can do things so fast, and that principle actually is going to apply to the machines we make at a nanoscale.
Okay, I know that
So it's
it's getting
coming.
late for me because I just heard blah, 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 proportional, blah, blah, computers, blah, blah, blah.
Penis.
Yes.
Well, we know nanotechnology is coming. It's just figuring out what to do with it.
How it can make us come.
And what? Okay, we were going on some good ending there. That was really good ending. And then KL has come out with.
Well,
Talking about his
it just had to be said. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that we did fairly well on this topic. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up before we call it in? Because nanotechnology is huge.
Speaking
even though
of
it's very
penis,
small.
I saw a screenshot on ESPN where the somebody wrote
ESPN?
on ESPN and somebody had a poster in back of them and it's had penis, but it had the ESPN in the middle all red. Oh, so it looked like for the channel. Penis.
On that, I think that's a good way to end the nanotechnology.
Yes.
And I have no idea what that had to do with nanotechnology. So,
Nanobots might have made it.
if you want to join this
I'm
conversation,
still trying to figure out how ESPN is in the middle of penis.
There's four
No.
penises. You got 4 penises. So it's PE and then PENIS.
and line down to say
like
ESPN.
they're okay.
I'll show you the
they're
picture.
clustered.
So, like in this
our show
room,
notes.
there's 4 penises. You're the E, you're the S, you're the P, and
Yeah.
I'm the N.
That's in penis. The letters. Not a picture of a penis. the letters penis.
There's a picture of penis with that letter on each one. ESPN. So, if
made
you'd like
with
to
dildos, I
if
guess.
you'd like to join the conversation about nanotechnology or penises, please email us at show@iamrambling.com. Okay, so Paul, next week it's your turn.
All right.
Wait, we need a song for your turn, like
Your turn.
your
baby.
turn, your
Reach around. It's your turn.
your.
Okay.
Okay.
Next week.
Our podcast has taken a bad turn.
Oh man.
You're acting like
So
this is the
I'd
first
like
time that's
to talk
happened.
about.
I mean, like, this is perpetual now. It happens
We're
every
going to
time.
dip into the world of social networking and how it has impacted our lives and the world and whether it's been good, bad.
You mean like
or
things
ugly.
like Facebook?
Could be Facebook.
You mean like things like MySpace?
like
Or
MySpace,
G+?
even BBSs.
Oh my goodness!
And then what
gracious,
happens
Ray
with those accounts after you die? Oh no!
Oh,
did
wait
that.
a
We
minute.
already did that.
Did that?
We
Okay.
did that.
But
to
the
death.
relationships, the
That's
relationships
the death bits. Is
bonded through it or destroyed.
oh.
Wow.
Like catfish.
That cat, yeah, Manti Teo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Check
It will
check
be
it out
next
next week.
all right.
We can get Manti Teo as a guest. That would be very nice. But yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on this
Manta,
episode
what?
of nanotechnology. And next week, join us for social networking and how it has affected our us. Yeah,
No, we didn't do the email at the beginning, did we?
we did.
We
We
did.
did. I'm,
Yeah.
I kind of like at the ending. I always say, hey, if you'd like
Yeah,
to join
don't
the
forget,
conversation, blah 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 blah.
If you'd like
Okay.
to complain,
Yeah, we'll even accept
like-
that.
that's
like
Daryl at.
Like
I don't
anyone's.
know why I don't remember this stuff.
Okay, I want to say this.
I was here when you did it.
I said this earlier, but I think our podcast, once we get really good at this, is going to be awesome. And these old ones that we did when we started out, well, these are our Evil Dead to our Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness.
We'll be
like
able to
people
look
look
back.
back on them going, oh, they're horrible. I can't believe it. But they love our regular show so much.
classic.
It's classic,
It's
exactly.
a cult classic.
So hopefully you've joined us now and you're with us from the beginning, which means you are definitely.
You know, if you want to get on that
Diagnosed
road, we could probably
insane.
mention penis less often.
Yes.
Just saying.
This is
All right, penis left up. Oh, dude, that was a funny joke, and I screwed it up. I'm tired. I need to sleep. Put the music on, Daryl.
Next week.
No. The ending music.
Oh, yeah,
the
that's
pig
right.
stinks.
All right,
Let's hear that riff.
Okay, so we will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us, and end it with a word. Anybody?
Nano.
We didn't say where we can be found.
Ah, damn it. Okay, I can be found at IamRambling.com. Paul.
Shit. Oh, hey, it's Paul.com.
Nobody cares.
Rom's rants at blogspot.com.
George.com, GILRS.
All right, we'll see you next week. Woo!
We're out of here.
Thanks for listening. You can now stop screaming at the open air. Listeners should put their minds back in their upright positions and resume traditional thinking. Find us on IamRambling.com for access to all of our weekly ramblings, show notes, general discussions, and any projects from Incoherent Ramblings. Like us on Facebook and rate us on iTunes. So long, and thanks for all the fish.
You said tits again.
Penis.
It's a habit.
Swamp ass!
I mean, really, can we say penis a little less?
Okay.
All right. Let's say dick more often.
Dude, are you still recording? Turn on the air conditioner. I got swamp ass.
We're growing up. It's dick now.